A Bedtime Story for Adults by Roxanne Gay. And the reading by Mustafa Bushi. Once upon a time, in a faraway place, far away from everything there, lived a boy and a girl. Now, this is an adult story. Once upon a time, in a faraway place, far away from everything, there lived a man and a woman. His name was Johan, and his was Alice. Rohan had white skin, and Eliza's was brown. This didn't matter in the beginning, but over time, it evolved first in small ways, then in little cracks, and then in what they called no longer enough. Rohan first saw Eliza when a smoke filled the road, and decided he wanted her, wanted to know the taste of the brown skin, wanted to run his hand over the soft surface of her ample body. Eliza didn't believe it. She didn't believe in fairy tales for herself or much of anything. Johan chose her and chose her and the family. She let him take her to dinner because she was hungry. Eliza let him have a drink at her house because she was lonely. She let him touch her because she was a mother, king of hungry. She lay with him and enjoyed the meat of his body against her. How his roar handled her sweetly. How his lips brushed her shoulder. Johan brought her pleasures and she brought him pleasures and laughter. He lay next to her, breathing coffee. Alice thanked him. She told him to leave. He did so, but vowed to return, ignoring her protests. Johan sent Alice a beautiful bouquet of fragrant wildflowers. She called and said thanks, and plus. Don't do that again, but she set the flowers and the coffee table in her living room and smelled its time each day. He continued to call, and sometimes she answered, and they talking about all manner of things. Johan persisted in his pursuit, and the Alice family relented and accompanied him to more dinner, and sometimes they had drinks, and sometimes they were so moving pictures, and she always let him spend the night. Soon, Eliza had forgotten that ever was a time when she didn't want Johanna around. The man was so different. Eliza Fenroy, he was so different. Rohan walked in his hand, and had never been beyond the border of the faraway place Pharaoh. Anything. He knew thing about the stars and the position of the sun. He knew about secrets with the falls in the heart of the deep woods, and he showed them to her. Let her drink that cold, clean water from his mouth with the throat. Closed hands, Elise worked with her hand, and sometimes her words. She knew about words and spent her day studying books. She spoke different language and had traveled to learn across the seas. And further even, she longed to be close to a place where she low, cold, thin, bright light and crowded streets, and where all once in a way she made to someone who looked like her. But Elise had a job to do and studies to accomplish. She was bade hair tie. Johan and Elise knew little of the same thing, but he knew how to touch her, to press his lips to her neck, and how to hold her as she slept and fall that mattress. Was the moment shot between them. They called the house the Oslo fall Afterliften. There were, however, other things that the mattress Johan and the vehicle mother were living in grand house. I don't know how. She left any restrictions on garden and enjoyed receiving the visitors in his living room filled with love and pushing furniture. The wicked mother scolded more than the smelled. The wicked mother trothed her son again and wanted nothing but the best for her oldest boy. She did not think Eliza was any kind of want nothing but in the best, but in the good enough, and she let that be noted, and Elizabeth Johan wicked mother gift and kind words. She said please and thank you and when invited to dinner. She offered to watch the dishes. None of her gestures called away the wicked mother who did not want Johanna to love. A woman with soft, different skin. It was a scandal. She said, think of the family name. She said, soon. It stopped going to the grand house high on the hill. She and Johan pretend the wicked mother didn't matter. A displeasure was an unfortunate detail. They told themselves they ignored the harsh words and the harsh thoughts. They pretend nothing else gets in the way of their happy and ever after. On festive days, when there was much to celebrate, Elise often found herself alone and waiting while Rohan paid his respects and feasted with his family. In this lonely moment, Elise wanted Johanna to make a choice, but she didn't dare ask. Couldn't bear knowing he might not choose her. There came a day when Elise learned she was a girl Johan's child. It was an unexpected but welcome blessing. When she told the Johan, he said his heart was so fully touched. He offered his hand in marriage and the place in his kingdom at his side. Elise told him the world was in the sea. She wanted to say yes. They began to bring for a future, and when they saw the doctor and heard the beating heart of their and brown child, They looked at each other and discovered they did share one thing: love. Rohan and the lace were so blended by their joy. They shared their good news with Johanna's wicked. Johanna's wicked mother knew. You open hearing of the news of a new hero in the kingdom. And better as she said what to say. She narrowed her ears into her black slate. She said no such a shell from two terribly different worlds ever recognized it, or loved by anyone, and hear from such venomous words. The wicked mother banished the elders from her arms, and Johanna stood by and said nothing. Torn between his mother and the worldly wife. Alice happened to offend a boy who forgave his silence. She will never forget. It happened on an ordinary day full of extraordinary moments. A day when Rohan painted the nursery or soft share of being for the child, who would be a girl who would be normal him. He stood in the room admiring his work, watching his woman holding their child near the right window, perhaps tossing up in the sky. Ella stood in the kitchen preparing her man a fine meal, aiming to her body, trusting in her joy. She was overcome by sudden triple pain in the seat for the womb. It was a pain so sharp and precise. She couldn't make a single sound. The last moment Alice remembered was falling to her knees and thinking, I cannot bear to lose this. Johan found her on the floor, bleeding slowly, breathing child after their home filled with the smell of Brian's meat. They both mourned the loss of the child, but instead of drawing them apart, the ceremony they love each other better and more fervently. When she finished her studies, Alice told Johanna she had to leave the faraway place fair, away from anything she had been offered, a position for which she had prepared her entire life. It was to her to live amongst so many memories of what shall have been, of which she in her life have been. She didn't want to raise children in a place where its citizens will always look upon them as more as than his. Johan said he understood. He said the world found a way to love each other across an impossible distance. She believed him. She trusted in her joy. One day of her departure, Johan sat next to Elise on a wooden pier that looked out on moonlight waters. Their heads dizzy with the wind, he said the most beautiful things she had ever heard a man say to a woman. He presented her with rings, a beautiful diamond in the shape of terror. He tried to slide the ring on her finger, but did not fit Alice's love. Nervously said this was a bad moment. Rohan said they will fix the ring. He said it was just a detail, and the detail didn't matter. He said, please take this ring. Please stay here with me in my kingdom. Elise looked at the beautiful ring and thought of how she had never heard how much she loved him. She thought about how he made her forget all the tragedies this had before I loved her. She tried to stop herself, but she cried and felt her heart falling apart. Johan thought her to moment she was saying yes. Elise handed Johan his ring, his hand shaking. She said, I can't stay. I cannot believe you asked. She said, you do not know me at all. The detail don't matter. She said you should have asked if you could leave this place. Wait a minute. Rohan sighed. I didn't never know any other key for life. He said those were his people, and this was his land. He said he would spend his life making her laugh. That land avoid. He did that. His family would grow to accept her. He grew angry. Said he would never let her go. Elias held her so much. Remember it? The child wants to grow in there, and how the loss of her bound them together so tightly. They sat together in silence. The night are calling everything between them. She understood she had been right about fairy tales all along. Good night. Thank you so much. A bedtime story for adults by Roxanne Gay, and the reading by Mustafa.